be it. This is a first-time date, and you really want to make a real good impression. And everything's going well, everything, conversation's going real well, and you decide to go to a real nice restaurant. Well, everything's going great until the waiter comes up and decides to give you the wine list. Well, you take a look at the wine list, and it's the size of the New York City phone book. What do? Likewise, same thing with women. I'm sure there are a lot of ladies here who have been out for the first time with a guy, or even with a boyfriend, and they're just somewhat inept in not knowing how to select a wine or what the differences are between a white and a red, or what the different varietal designations mean. And you don't want that person to be awkward. You want to alleviate the awkwardness and make it as comfortable as it can be, because wine is something that should be enjoyed. It's a compliment, and it shouldn't cause any of us undue stress. That's the personal side of it. The professional side of it is we're going to be meeting with pretty high-level customers and things. More than likely, if you have tier 2 or tier 3 customer accounts that you're dealing with, they're going to like wine. And if you're going to be playing host at a luncheon or a dinner meeting, and they give you the option and specifically request that you select the wine, and you don't know anything about it, it's going to make you feel very uncomfortable, and it will come through in the meeting. So that's the first thing I want to do. My goal today is to let all of you feel comfortable and demystify, to use one of Frank's terms from yesterday, what wine really is. And make it more user-friendly to all of you. In order to do that, it's important to start with some background information. There are 3 key terms that it's mostly industry jargon, but it's real important to understand so that when you look at a bottle of wine, you'll understand what Johannesburg Riesling means. You'll understand why there's a date on the label. All those things will make some kind of sense to you, so when you actually get the wine list, you'll be able to kind of maneuver through it. So the first term I'd like to define for you is varietal. Then we'll move into the vintage, and then we'll move into the appellation. There are 3 terms. As far as varietal goes, all the varietal term does is designate the type of grape that's used in the production of the wine. That's all it does. So if I say, just happen to have some E&J Gallo Cabernet here, if I know that I want to get a Cabernet Sauvignon, I order a glass of Cabernet Sauvignon, I know that the type of grape that I am asking for is a Cabernet Sauvignon grape. So I know that this wine is truly a varietal because it has the designation Cabernet Sauvignon on it. Now, if it didn't have those words on it, if it had just red table wine, it's not a varietal because it doesn't have the name of a grape on the label. Any questions about that?
Okay. If it didn't have the varietal label on it, what would that indicate? This is not one pure grape, or something?
Exactly, it's a blend. It's a blend of different grapes.
How many different varietals are there?
Well, we're going to talk about the most popular ones, but there are a whole slew of different varietals that are coming out. But just to name a few, there's a Chardonnay, Cabernet Sauvignon, there's a Johannesburg Riesling. Let me touch on the Californian Zinfandel, and Sauvignon Blanc. Those are some of the major varietals. And normally to constitute a varietal, about 90% of the grapes used in the production of that wine have to be of that specific grape type.
And you said, when is that? There's sometimes that's not given on the bottle.
Right, because it's not a true varietal. It wasn't made. 90% of the grapes used in the production of that wine do not come from one specific type of grape. So it's not a varietal.
Oh, true.
Right.
That's what they say. They're generally.
Then we move along into the vintage terminology. This is kind of a snobbish, has a tendency to be a little snobbish. You can walk in and say, I'd like a bottle of Gumlach Banchu 1987 Proprietor's Reserve, Cabernet Sauvignon. Well, why do you choose a 1987? What does that mean? Well, let's say you read an article in a newspaper or in the Wine Spectator, and you knew that in 1987, it was a particularly good year for the Cabernet Sauvignons. Then you know you probably want to select, has that vintage date on it. Let's just take this Johannesburg Riesling, 1991. That's a vintage date. What that means is that the grapes that were used in the production of this wine, 75% to 100%, depending upon the winery, came from that particular year. Likewise, if you know that 1990 was a terrible year for Cabernet Sauvignon, so you would not want to order a 1990 Cabernet Sauvignon. That makes sense?
Oh, do they go ahead and bottle it even if you say it was a terrible year? Is there ever a time that things are so bad they just wouldn't issue a vintage in a particular year, or do they just put it out there and hope people won't know the difference?
It depends on the winery. I can tell you specifically from Gallo Winery, Gallo will not release a vintage unless it meets their standards. Gallo, I'll give you a hard example on that. Gallo started producing estate bottled Chardonnays and Cabernets. These are real high-end Chardonnays and Cabernets, real top-tier market. Not very many people can afford to buy these wines. The Chardonnay sells for $25 a bottle and the Cabernet for $60. And if you know anything about the Wine Spectator ratings, to get anything above an 85 is excellent. Well, these two varietals have received 93s and 94s. They're supposed to be amazing. I haven't had the opportunity to try one yet because they're also released in limited production. Well, they were supposed to be released in 1990, and they did not release them because they did not meet their standards. So to answer your question, that's one example when they wouldn't release them. Joe, I'll come to Joe first.
I'm just wondering, this is mostly on James Bond things, but when wine comes in different glass, they taste it, they can tell what type of drink it is, which I imagine you can do with the palate sensitive.
Right.
But they go a step beyond and list, well, this must be a 79, 78 was a bad. Is that possible to?
Oh yeah, it's possible, definitely. These people are very well trained. All we're going to touch upon is just give you a little background information on what some of the traditions are in the wine industry, and then tasting. But this is, I claim to be no expert, but I can get by just with basic knowledge, and that's what I'm trying to hand over to all of you, is just basic knowledge so you feel comfortable. Sandra?
Should we be concerned about the year? I mean, and if so, I mean, should we read food and wine? I mean,
Normally when you go to a nice restaurant or to a restaurant that has an extensive wine list, the waiters or waitresses will know what wines complement which foods. And if they don't know, you may have a sommelier, which is just a French term for a real high-level wine steward type. He really knows his stuff.
In California, do you know some of the good years by any chance? Like
The 80s were real good. 87 was a real good year for Cabernets in particular. I think it started in about 86 and went through about 89. 1990 and 91 were sort of iffy. It varied more by wineries in the 90s than by food. Yeah. So we'll give you the third definition, which we discussed was appellation. And all the term appellation means is it just designates the region from which the grapes that produce the wine came. That's all it does. So if you see Napa Valley on the label, you know that it came from Napa. And I believe it's about 75% of the grapes had to come from that region. To touch upon, this goes back to what you had asked, Frank, I believe, what some of the popular varietals are. Right now, and I'm addressing California and the United States consumption of wine, there are three real killer wines that are doing real well because of popular consumer demand. And that's the Chardonnay, the Zinfandel, which is also known as white Zinfandel, because you do have a white Zinfandel and a red Zinfandel, and also the Cabernet Sauvignon. So those are the three major types. Just to touch upon it real briefly, the difference between a white Zinfandel and a Zinfandel, a white Zinfandel is what it's termed as a blush wine. It's very pink and it tends to be a little sweeter than a Zinfandel. It's still got some fruity flavors and overtones to it. All it was is that the skins of the grapes were not allowed to stay with the juice as long as it was in the Zinfandel. Because the juice of the Zinfandel grape is red. So what happens when you get the Zinfandel, the red Zinfandel, it's just that the skins were allowed to stay longer with the juice, and that's why you get the deep red cherry plum color in the Zinfandel. I don't think I know of any other industry that is so into tradition as the wine industry is. There are a lot of industries related to the lead foil, the cork that's used, the bottle, the color of the bottle, the shape of the bottle, the punt of the bottle, and also the foods that go along with the wine. Or the wine that goes along with food is probably a better way of stating that. Yeah?
Is the part that figure on the bottom?
Yeah, we're going to get to that, and I'll point that out to you.
Are they getting away from lead?
we're going to get to that too. We're going to talk, lead foil is the first thing we're going to talk about. Lead foil is this what you see on the neck of the bottle. They call it lead foil because it's made of lead. And it came about several hundreds of years ago. It's basically used to protect the cork from rats. Rats really like the cork, and they would come in and eat the cork. Well, as you know, when you start eating the cork, air can get through, and it damages the whole composition of the wine. It's not allowed to get to the state that it needs to get to for the wine steward, for the vintner to release the wine, or the winemaker to release the wine. So yeah, it will oxidize and it will turn to vinegar faster. So that's why they use the lead foil. Now getting to the actual cork, let's take this one out here. The corks also came about, it's a European tradition. And the only reason that there's no rhyme or reason to actually using cork, except that at the time it was the best material in closure. At the time. There is a real shortage of corks right now, but it's kind of interesting to note that most of the production of corks comes from Portugal. And Brazil is getting to be a pretty large producer of corks now as well. What do you do when the wine steward or the waiter comes up to your table? You have the wine, and then he gives you the cork.
Smell them.
And see if it's
Nah.
damp.
Yeah, I heard.
Go ahead.
When I was in Napa last year, I went to a couple, I knew nothing before I got there, know a little more than that. But I did remember that a couple folks said that a common thing for Americans to do is indeed to sniff it. But most really good, that word you see is guys who serve the wine kind of snicker. That means to the tourist, bing bing, you should at best feel for dampness or just leave it alone.
That's exactly right. Exactly. What you do with the cork, and this can be the most awkward thing when the waiter comes over because it's like, all right, so what do you want me to do with the cork, you know? All you do is just touch the tip of it to see if it's damp. The reason you do that is you know that when it was being aged, it was kept on its side. You always want the cork to be wet. If it's not wet, it will crumble and it will get into the wine, and you don't want that to happen. But you don't smell it because you can't smell anything.
I do wonder. They do it on TV.
Yeah, and that's incorrect, but that's how it leads to a lot of misconceptions about what to do with the cork. So you just leave it alone, touch it, and then leave it alone. That's all.
Is there any possibility of any of the lead having any effect on the cork?
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that. The reason that we cut below the lip of the bottle, the lead foil away from the bottom of the lip, is because you don't want the wine, the actual juice of the wine, to touch the lead. There are certain hazards, they say, in letting the juice touch the lead. And in fact, what's happening now in the industry is that they're moving away from lead foil, to address one of your questions. They found that plastic is actually very good and much less expensive to use. So there's a vintner out there, there's a winery called R.H. Phillips that's actually coming out with plastic, and you'll see that instead of the lead foil. Excuse me. The next thing that we can talk about is the actual bottle itself. I mean, you can tell by just looking at the table here how different the shapes of the bottle are. They're all so different, and there's no rhyme or reason to the different shapes either of the bottle. It's stuck again in tradition, very old European types of tradition, and that's basically why it's been around so long. But you could use any shape you wanted to for the bottle, to bottle the wine. Let's talk about the color of the bottles. Certain colors reflect certain parts of the spectrum. So in a Cabernet, you'll normally find that it is a green bottle. In a Chardonnay, you'll find yellow and sometimes brown for the Chardonnay bottles. But it simply has to do with keeping the light out, reflecting certain parts of the spectrum so that it doesn't damage the juice inside the bottle. Need some water?
Need some wine.
We'll get to that, I promise. So we talked about the shape, we talked about the color. Let me show you something. Do we have one here? Yeah, we do. Can everyone see that groove right there? Mm-hmm. Everyone see that? The groove in the bottom? The bottom of it? exactly what you were asking about. The reason that there's a punt, you wanna talk about this, or would you like me to?
I don't know, my guess is that they have a saying in New Orleans that when you do something well, you will stuff your foot in it. And I imagine it's a good while to be stuck his foot in it.
Well, that's an interesting story. The reason that a lot of wineries don't keep a flat bottle like this one is that a punt actually adds strength to the bottle, so that when you ship it, it doesn't have as much of a tendency to break. But there is also another functional reason that actually leads to taste as well. When you have a punt at the bottom of the bottle, when you stand it up, what happens? After something's been aging for a long time, you get a lot of dregs and sediment in the wine itself. So what happens when you stand it up, it all goes down to the bottom. Well, if you have a flat bottom, it's going to hit the entire surface area of the bottom of the bottle. With a punt, it will only go towards the rim. So you have less surface area of the wine actually in contact with the dregs or the sediment, which is what you desire to have. That's why they have a punt.
Is there a lot more sediment in champagne? This is champagne bottle usually has do you know?
There is sediment in champagne, but what you'll find is a great deal of sediment in the heavier Cabernets. Cabernets are aged in the bottle a lot longer than a Chardonnay or even champagnes. So that's why you'll find more sediment in the older, heavier wines. And if we go along to food, I think everyone here probably has heard the old adage, white wines with fish and chicken and red wines with beef. And that's a pretty good guideline to go with, but there are some other, you can take some other paths with that. Those don't have to be hard and true guidelines to go with. So you're having some chicken and it's got a tomato cream base to it, or sauce with it. You could get a red wine and it might complement it very well. You could go with a Pinot Noir, for instance, which is a little lighter than a Cabernet. A Cabernet is great with steaks and with chocolate, believe it or not. If you don't believe me, just try eating a piece of chocolate with Cabernet. It's great. It's really good. The key is just to experiment, use your own discretion, get people in restaurants to give you their recommendations. Just try it. That's how you learn. And don't be afraid to try. If there's no such thing as a bad wine. The only thing is that you don't care for it. That's all. It's not bad. The only way it can be bad is if air got to it and it's oxidized and it's turned into vinegar. That's it. So those are the rules about food.
So the rules are, there are no rules?
Exactly. There are no rules. If you have something spicy and it happens to be fish or it happens to be chicken, you can go with a lighter red. And actually, some Tex-Mex dishes that like you were talking about, Elizabeth, today, actually you can go with like a chicken ranchero and get even a Cabernet with it because it's so spicy and so it's got a lot more substance to it, the sauce in ranchero.
Are there some foods that are so spicy that you shouldn't even attempt a wine with it? I know I was reading one time an overview of what foods to eat with what wine, and it came to chili, and this author said, forget it, drink beer.
Nothing goes with chili?
Because the taste of the chili is so strong and so overpowering that the wine just won't stand up to it. Do you agree with that, or do you think that there's a wine for every food?
I believe there's a wine for every food. It's just finding the right wine for you and for your palate.
What wine would you drink with chili?
I'd go with something lighter too. I would not go with anything as spicy like a Zinfandel. That's a little too spicy. But I might try a Merlot.
Okay.
With chili.
Excuse me, that was recommended for me this week when I went out to dinner, and I had never heard of that. What is that?
Merlot is another varietal. It's a type of grape. It's expanding in our marketplace. It's not one of the big three, but it's really gaining a lot of popularity here in the States.
Spell it for me.
M-E-R-L-O-T. Merlot. Yes.
What do you drink of Bouvray? Would you know this?
Excuse me?
Bouvray? Bouvray. B-O-U-V-R-A-Y.
What was the question?
What do you drink that with?
I don't know what Bouvray is. Moving on to tasting in the interest of time, this is, you're all going to get the opportunity to do this. There are certain things that you want to keep in mind. You're basically looking for freshness when you taste the wine. You're using your palate to determine the freshness, you're looking at the color of the wine in the glass to determine the freshness. And you're also making sure that it doesn't have a putrid odor to it. Sometimes it can smell real musty, and it may just be that it wasn't aged properly. It ended up just decomposing. They let it age too long. The handling of the wine is real important as well. In particular, we'll talk about the decanter and the wine glass. When you drink a red, particularly a heavy red, it's a good idea to decant the wine. All that is, you can use a glass pitcher at home. It doesn't have to be a beautiful Baccarat crystal decanter. All you need to do is just uncork the wine and pour it very, very slowly into the glass pitcher and just let it breathe. What you're actually doing there when you're in the process of pouring it into the pitcher, you're allowing air to circulate into the juice of the wine. And that in turn is going to get rid of a lot of mustiness that could be in there since it was aged so long, and it's going to actually let it balance. You need to let it settle a little bit. So that's why you would want to decant in particular a red wine. Wine glass is, I see people hold wine glasses like this. I see people hold wine glasses like this. And there are just a whole bunch of ways to hold them. There is actually a function for this stem. The reason you have a stem is because it's out of the contact with the wine in the bowl of the glass. Our bodies emit heat, and our hands emit heat as well. So if we were to hold onto the glass like this, we really are affecting the wine that's inside the bowl of the glass. So it may not, you'll get different opinions on this, but it may not make it taste exactly as it should because you're heating it up. So you really want to hold it by the stem so that it doesn't heat up and that it stays at the temperature, it holds its temperature as it should. White wine is normally served chilled. Cabernet is normally served at room temperature. Something like a Merlot or a Pinot could be chilled. Not as cold as a Chardonnay, but it could be chilled slightly. And you could serve it that way.
Why is it the Chardonnay have to be real cold? Because it's so dry?
There's a point where it gets too cold and you're not even going to be able to taste all the flavors in the wine. So I can't recall the exact temperature you want to get it to, but the reason you want to do that is the flavors and the way that it was created, the acidity level, the sugar level, all that stuff is the best way to drink it for that particular wine is chilled. Bring out all those different components of the wine. Are there any other questions?
Yeah. So decanting is not for sediment, it's only for the breathing?
It also can be used for the sediment because the sediment, what will tend to happen is if you have a large punt in it, most of the juice will escape and you'll get a good portion of the sediment in the bottom of it. That's why you also tilt it like this. You don't pour it like this. You tilt it very gently and pour it very slowly into the pitcher. So what you're doing, you're checking for color. When they pour the wine into your glass, you're going to check for color. One of the first things you'll do is the reason they pour a little bit of wine initially into the glass is so that you can tilt it. You can hold it up to the light, and if it's a white wine, you want to make sure that there's a very clear ring around the top of the wine. And you'll see it, and you'll see it when we get to it. You see a clear ring. Same thing with the red wine. You want to make sure there's a clear ring around the red wine. If there's not a clear ring around the white wine, it means that it's been oxidized. How many people have bitten into an apple and it's turned brown? That happens to wine too. It means air has gotten into it. Send the white wine back. You can do that, and there's nothing wrong with it. They didn't store it properly. The red wine, unfortunately, you're usually out of luck. It's just aged too long, and you happen to pick the wrong vintage. And after you check for the color, you can swirl it in your glass if you like, and you can smell it. What that does is it just brings out some of the smells in the wine. The bouquet, they call it bouquet. You can also tell how many legs or how full-bodied the wine is from that process, and then just drink it and enjoy it.
Go back to that. You said, I understand what the white wine gives you for a ring.
A clear
Clear
ring.
ring.
Very
So
slight
there should
ring.
also be a clear ring with the red wine.
Yes. When you tilt it and hold it for light, you will see a clear ring. It's brown. It's probably not going to taste very good. It's probably a little too old. finalize, we've gone through the background information of the wine, we've gone through the traditions that are stated in the wine industry, and we've gone through the tasting. All I want you to remember is, as Sarah said, there are no rules. What you like is what you like, and just enjoy it. Have a good time. Wine is fruit of the vine, so enjoy. Now, how many people would like white? The different, it's just, first off, this is French and this is American.
Beaujolais is like the new one, it's just off the vine, it's the first year, it's like.
There's a
new
Beaujolais grape. Beaujolais grape too.
It's the like tasting of the age, so you can see how long the age is, so it's like that, that's what.
Veronica, before you start to let everybody taste, let us just very quickly give you some feedback on your presentation.
Oh, yeah.
This is
yeah.
going to be fast feedback, isn't it? Okay, tell Veronica what you liked about her presentation.
Great visuals.
Yeah. Yes.
I thought that she organized the information well and got a lot of information in a short period of time.
Okay, good. And very well, managed the arena very well, figured out which way you needed to go to make sure that everybody could see it, moved us all over to one side of the room. Just really scoped out the situation and got it set up so that it would be a real good experience for us. Good job on thinking through the presentation. Any other? Yes, Gerald?
I think I really enjoyed the way it appealed to more than one mode and more than one of my senses. That not only did I just see it, and that was the only method of communication primarily, but I was imagining the taste of the wine, I was imagining myself in the restaurant. So I really got a visual picture
Right.
while she was presenting.
Good, good. Anybody else have a comment?
She approached wine with the seriousness that people do, but she also was very lighthearted about it.
Right.
I mean,
She
the
wasn't
appropriate
stuffy.
amount of
No,
light.
She wasn't
because
stuffy.
you put us at ease about it because the idea of demystifying it, tying it to what Frank said is a real good point because I know all of us have been in a restaurant and been thoroughly intimidated by a snooty waiter who really enjoyed making us almost feel uncomfortable. And like you said, until it was years before I realized what you were supposed to do with it, that you were checking for dampness, not, like you said, you see on TV there, give it that action. So thank you for bringing it down to, or any suggestions, anything she might have done to.
I'll just say one thing, that everyone may know this, but I thought it was kind of neat when I learned about it when I was out in Napa Valley, where cork comes from. Does everyone know, I guess?
To cork tree.
Yeah. That's what I never knew that. Yeah, it's a tree, it's the bark. Pretty
Only,
neat. I just thought that was.
my only suggestion is that given time limitations, when you get into a situation where you are faced with some time limitations, you might pick up the pace just a little bit. It was very leisurely, and that was good. It's late in the afternoon, and that was the last one and all that. But just really be aware of time when you're in a business situation. But you gave good practical information that everybody can use when you're meeting with a client or entertaining in any way. That was excellent. Any other suggestions for Veronica?
Maybe just talking about, like you mentioned, you threw up the wine spectator, which I've only just barely heard of, so maybe you could say, well, there's, these are the places to trade in.
Marilyn, do you have any comment? Okay, now tell us what to do.
Okay. Who here is up for, we have just one white Chardonnay, and of course it's E&J Gallo, and we have a Cabernet, which is E&J Gallo, and I can open this too, which is the Beaujolais, although this is not California, this is French, and I don't know much about French wine, but this has a tendency to be real light and real fruity. It's not as heavy as the Cabernet.
It's more like an American peanut.
I'll have the Beaujolais.
I mean, would you agree? I mean, that's what I've.
Yeah, I would
Charlie,
say
could you
it
maybe
is.
get the glasses out of there if you
Pretty
don't
white.
mind?
I think for the Beaujolais. Yeah, I'm pretty clear. Well, matter of fact, if you don't have enough of it, you can make some work. No. Oh, come on, you know I don't wine.
And we all got it all together, right in the nick of time. that was really, right, that was really nice of them to do that. So and they're together, I mean, we're all starting on Monday, so that's even better. They worked it out so their Thursday schedule perfectly.
You got a brain in the head. You don't drink? That's why you You ever drink?
Too like heavily awesome.
Just a reminder to you all, please fill out your evaluations for Beverly Langford.
Look at the mini cam. He said going mini cam now.
Where would you like these? Over here?
Hey, coming through, guys. Coming through.
Is everybody back? I just wanted to say one quick thing to wind us up after we all get it.
Somebody just walked out.
Monique walked in. I just wanted to.
Jeff.
Last word.
I said, get together.
Yeah, Perry, that's exactly
I do have,
Typical Friday afternoon for me. Sit around, sip some red wine. I used to go on day to trust off.
You can go back. I've seen them. Yeah, I've seen them before. I've seen actual pictures put over mantles, like the United States or whatever.
Oh, who wants red?
Does a screw-on cap have anything to do with it?
I'm sorry?
Does a screw-on cap, you said the court really doesn't have anything to do with it, other than...
The screw on is good.
But I mean, is it just perception, or does it really mean something?
What's actually happening in the skin is also just has a tendency to decompose or crumble like the cork does. So screw cap is actually as best enclosure that we have today, but because of perception and tradition. Yeah.
It's pretty bad. It's a sucker for a pretty label.
So I'm not, are you, I go in and look at the, oh, wow.
Yeah, but I've seen that. That's not like we talked about last year.
I wish the real name was like the
You get it. I went out the bottle. Yeah, we can save that change for.
Oh,
wow. I like real
That must have been a carryover that will help with.
Now, Gerald, Gerald,
No, I just, you want me to take one?
Smooth legs. Full body.
Take this knowledge home with you. You would love your brain.
I'm just starting to learn a little bit about that. I don't know much, but there's certain doors that you do labels on that.
You're letting me make the decision of away.
Sometimes you can taste nothing like that. Maybe you take them a lot enough to make long or something.
I mean, all this, but I've always heard about that, like, home breed stuff.
That's why you want the decant.
Rose.
You still blind everybody.
All right, Howard. You
That really needs to be class mascot. You need to keep him close to
I always do that about like the 12 smells, you all flowers smell the same.
Lose your legs.
True connoisseur. Has to be.
And now like come together.
Everybody sit down, take one.
Did you say you were turning?
Yeah.
You know what, Veronica, it's still, it's not dry, but it is dry. It's not dry, but.
And if we had more time than that, we could go on for hours about wine.